Welcome back now. With the housing market in crisis, many people are wondering whether now is the right time to buy.
Joining us to talk us through it is Paul Merriman, financial advisor with askpaul.ie. Good to see you again, Paul. How are you?
Good morning, Paul.
Great, thanks.
First of all, how many people, what kind of statistics are we talking about, are renting at the moment in this
So
country?
there's just over 900,000 as per the latest Savills report in December. So that's 900,000 people renting, which is a big figure.
Huge figure for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons. I suppose the main reason I can see out there at the moment is that young people that are caught in the rent trap are finding it hard to get the deposit together to get out of the rent situation into buying a property. And that's the biggest thing. It's very hard to save for a deposit while you're renting and paying very, very big rents. So that's probably the main thing that's holding people back. Yeah. And I suppose that's for young people with a 10% deposit. There's also another cohort of people that have maybe bought in the past, maybe separated, split up, and they're second-time buyers now, and they need a 20% deposit. So again, it's even harder for them to get in the ladder.
These are people who maybe bought an apartment during the boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Renting that out, want to buy, but now renting their own family home because they might have kids now.
Exactly. That's nearly exactly what the majority of these people are.
And a lot of time you hear the advice, don't sell the apartment that you have because in a few years' time it'll be worth more.
Yeah, and again, it's just those people are stuck in that kind of rental situation then, you know, and they can't get back on the ladder once they've left the mortgage.
Can I ask, Paul, is renting such a bad thing long term? I mean, we have this compulsion in Ireland, and it's pretty much fueled the boom, didn't it? You got to own your own plot of land. You know, it's like the Bull McCabe thing, isn't it? Like,
it is. Put your flag down.
Can rent, because we see in Europe people rent for decades, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at other mainland Europe, and if you even go as far as Australia, renting is a thing that's done by loads of families for right up until retirement age. But in Ireland, we have got this real thing. We need to own our own property. But anyone out there that's listening and they're trying to get on the property ladder, the biggest thing for me, the concern for me at the moment, is that the interest rates at the moment are quite low. And they're not compared again to some of our EU counterparts. But if you look at that, if you take a mortgage out now, an awful lot of people are coming to me saying, Paul, how much can I borrow? And it shouldn't be a target. I know the property market's high, but they're not looking at what they can afford.
Right.
So they're kind of answered the wrong way. What's the maximum I get?
Yeah.
What's the maximum term? Now, the maximum term out there at the moment is 35 years. But if you borrow over 35 years, say if you go for a €300,000 house and you get a 270,000 mortgage, so 90% mortgage, the interest over that over 35 years is in and around 175,000 interest you're going to pay back to the bank over 35 years. If it's over 25 years, it's only 125,000. So that's a difference of 50,000 euros in the difference
between 10 years left to pay it off, so your mortgage is going to be bigger.
Well, it's not that much bigger. In some cases, it's only €140 a month. Now, I know that sounds like an awful lot, but really, it's still a big chunk of change in your back pocket.
Because the natural inclination is to see, well, have the smallest possible repayment per month, stretch it out longer, and you've more disposable income.
In fairness, most people start off, I've seen this mistake by young people as well, so they start off thinking, I'll take it over 35 years, and in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to knock it back down to 30.
Sure.
That never happens.
Because you factor it into your savings.
And I wouldn't mind, there's not that much difference between a 35-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage. Like, the difference on a monthly basis is pittance. It's not much at all. So,
but tracker's gone, so interest is only going to go up.
Exactly. So that's the thing. If you get into a good interest rate now, maybe 3.15%, in a few years' time, that interest rate's going to keep going up and up, where they don't really have that problem with rent. I know there's rent caps in some of the main cities at the moment, so it's up to 4%. The landlord can't increase it by more than 4%. Now, I know not everyone's sticking to that, but that theory is a good move by government, and I think that we're going to see more stricter rules around renting. And that does come in and might take a little bit of pressure off people trying to dive into these mortgages,
Tommy was mentioning earlier on our European counterparts and the fact that people across certainly mainland Europe, and as you said, even as far as Australia, like to rent, enjoy renting, and are long-term tenants.
Yes.
But it is cheaper to rent over there, as it is cheaper to get a mortgage in a lot of places. It's cheaper to rent, and also the terms and conditions are longer.
Yeah, terms and conditions are much better.
They're kinder to the tenants.
They are, definitely. But like I said, I think the government have started to make a few rental changes, and hopefully they'll increase over the coming years. But while you mentioned that, if you look at the Germans, when they're borrowing money, they can borrow for much less. So they can borrow for nearly 1%, where we're buying at 3%. So there's a big difference there as well. It's a huge issue, And recently, a German bank, Sparkas, tried to come into the Irish marketplace and help us with kind of a local country or credit union for borrowing through a credit union. And the Irish government have rejected an invitation to go over and see how it works over there, which is a big shame, because it'd be great to see young people getting mortgages for 1%, fixed, like 1.1% fixed for 20 years or 30 years in some cases. So we're kind of getting robbed in our interest rates here by our banks.
Is the sense that like the Irish government obviously still have a stake in certainly one of the banks, and that they're not interested?
Yeah, I
which
think
is
that's
not
the
really
case.
good news for the people, is it?
It's definitely the case, but I think there's always this thing about not being told to do it from Germany or from mainland Europe. There's a little bit of that involved in it as well, but I can't understand it. I think it'd be a great scheme, and I'd welcome them with open arms. Anything that can help people get on the ladder quickly and eat more easily, and as well as that, the smaller repayments is what you're really looking for. So people aren't going to be hammered. Like property's quite expensive again, so a lower interest rate really helps. Obviously.
So, Paul, to answer the question that we posed at the beginning of the interview, is now the right time to buy?
Get off the fence.
There is no correct answer.
I think it's too high. Honestly, I do. I think if you have a good landlord and you're in good rental accommodation, I wouldn't be panicking. I think there's going to be a number of changes over the next few years. So I honestly wouldn't be jumping into these massive mortgages with these interest rates that we don't know where they're going to go in a few years.
Well, if that's the case, then how do people negotiate with their landlords so that they're not going to have a huge rental increase in the next couple of years as well?
Yeah, I suppose, like I said, you're looking for those rent caps to really stay involved and making sure you're registered with the right authority. Tenancy board, etc. So again, they're the things you need to do. But I know not everyone has the great landlord. You always hear the horror stories, but generally speaking, there's great landlords out there, and people are really, really enjoying their accommodation with their landlords. So I know we hear about the horror stories all the time, but there's some good stories.
It's the big question that financial advisors and property advisors get is that is now a good time to buy, and you can't look into the future.
Yeah.
But if the government, as they plan to do address the supply side of the thing and start building more houses, or that encourages, then that would fit into your point that maybe prices are a little bit high at the moment.
They are a bit high. They're definitely, I think they're too high as well. For a young person to save up maybe 30 or 40 grand to jump onto the ladder, instead of investing in themselves and maybe, I don't know, setting up their own business, going back to college, getting a higher increase in their salary over the next few years. They should be priorities rather than trying to tie yourself in with a bank for the next 30 years that we don't really have that big trust with either.
It's just about changing our mindset, but you know what, I think a lot of us had to do that during the recession anyway, so we're probably more open to other options.
Good point.
And I think certainly if you are going down the road of buying, the point that you made about doing your sums, work it out, because I have been that pilgrim. Long term, stretch it out as little as possible. Give me as much money every month.
And then once you're 5 or 10 years in, you realise you really haven't made a dent on your mortgage, and it's all being interest up front. You see, with mortgages, you pay the interest in the first few years. First 5 years, you get hammered with interest payments. Your capital comes down by a very small amount. So you really have to look at the figures and make sure you get the best advice that's out there,
Brilliant, Paul.
Well, brilliant stuff as always.
Thanks very much
For joining us this morning.
Thanks, Emil.